The time was somewhere around 2 o'clock in the morning, and I suddenly could feel that my breathing was becoming heavier. And by just sheer luck, I just opened up my eyes and I realized that the entire house was white with a cloud of smoke, a thick cloud of smoke. And I could not understand where was this smoke coming from. So I grew up in a house where my mother would just smoke in the middle of the night, but this particular smoke was not even a tobacco smoke. No, it was much heavier. So I woke up, made my way to my grandmother's room. She was deep in sleep. I had to wake her up, and I realized that the smoke was originating from my mother's room. So from there, I pushed the door and forced my way inside, and I found her deep in sleep as well. And I realized that this smoke was originating from her blanket. There was no flame, but it seems like this blanket was slowly burning. It almost looked like she was smoking and maybe fell asleep while she was smoking. So this ash just transformed into a huge bowl of small coal that was red and was slowly burning the blanket away. And she was fast asleep. And this is a time when within an hour or two, I was meant to go on a trip where I was chosen to represent my district, Fezile Dabi, in the province on an event called the Inter-Provincial Games. The year was 2006 and they were held in Bloemfontein. And I was chosen as one of the officials that were going to be trained at Transnet School of Excellence, I think so. So this was the training aspect of it. We were going to be taken for a week to go to attend training. And so all this happens, I'm still waiting for the transport. Do you understand? So I am confused, I'm dumbfounded, I'm hurt, because these people were almost, they almost killed. They almost got killed and did not know, just from smoke inhalation. And here I am, I have a date with destiny. And I remember saying to my grandma, you know what, I'm even cancelling this trip. These people, I have to tell them that I just woke, I have a family emergency. Literally, it was just like waking up in a house that was on fire. And my grandmother was so adamant to tell me that, no, you're not doing that. You are going to take this trip. You are going to represent Free State in the provincial. You're going to represent your district in the province. Go take the training. And you have to go live your life. She literally told me that this has been the life that she's been living, taking care of my mother, and there is nothing that will stop me from going, living my life. As a matter of fact, she told me that I have this under control. Painful as it was, I had to consider going. It was not that much far, in terms of time. The phone call came. Those people were somewhere around my area and they said we were about to come and take you. They were about to come and take me. So representing my district in a provincial event meant that the transport would dispatch, the province will dispatch a transport that will go in each and every district to fetch the participants, and I was one of those people. And I remember that was the most painful trip that I could ever take, away from home, leaving my house in that mess, and my grandmother telling me that I have to go, and she had that under control. I was in tears. So this is a story that I would like to share of me, of the fact that I was given birth by a woman, a mother, who is living with mental illness. Some of you might call it schizophrenia. Those who do not know the term and have lack of sensitivity around the issue would say someone uhlanyayo, would call it that. So this has been my mother for all I know, and a wonderful being, someone, a lady that loves me so much. I have memories of her protecting me from this bully that was just staying across of my home with a garden spade. She's like, you are not going to do that to my child. And she ran out of the house with a garden spade. This bully ran his life off. And the fact that the challenges that you face as a child of someone who is living with mental illness. And also this is a story of how I saved my mother from a Holocaust called Isidimeni, Life Isidimeni. Do you remember Life Isidimeni was a project that was run by the health department in South Africa for over decades, or 2 decades, where they would take care of mentally ill patients and putting them in a health facility called Health Isidimeni. So what happened is that I think probably a decade ago, the health department realized that they could no longer fund this particular program, so they terminated a program with this service provider called Health Isidimeni and took all the mentally ill patients to different NGOs around the province, and some of these NGOs were just registered overnight. Some of these NGOs did not even have the requisite experience, and this was just a mess. And out of that, over 110 or 20 patients died. Some from malnutrition, some from abuse, some from it was just a whole lot of a mess. That's why I call it a Holocaust. People died there. So that was just one incident that I just recalled of my mother almost harming herself. So her sickness used to cause her to be very violent to herself mostly, not to us. And she used to loiter a lot. She spent half of her life in mental institutions. And at this year, she's 76, and God has still kept her. And I think partly to the reason why she's still alive is because of a decision that I took a long time ago. I remember there was this one other day when she was just so violent in the morning, just banging the doors. So, and remember, just before I get to that example, that incident, that I grew up in a house where this individual is someone who's always been reprimanded. As a mother, you always to be giving care and love, but I grew up in a house where she was reprimanded. Don't do that, don't do that. And it became difficult because I now had to teach myself to love her, and half of the time I was living under shame and embarrassment to associate myself with her. And as a child, you should not ever be able to teach yourself to love your mother. It's supposed to be a natural process. But I had to take a decision to say, I think I was in grade 11 when it dawned to me that, wow, no, this is your mother, this is my mother. So I had to change the way I treat her. I had to understand that I might be the only healing that she needs. You also need to remember that this sickness has taken four important things away from her. This sickness has taken the closeness between the intimate relationship between mother and son. This sickness has taken away her dreams. This sickness has taken away the respect that she would have from her peers, and this sickness has taken away the joy from her life. And I realized that I had to somehow not wait for her to be sane again, because we couldn't pick up what triggered this sickness. And so that's a brief of my history and where I come from. And this particular day, coming to the incident that led me to decide that I needed to take away my mother from these mental institutions, because she was heavily drugged. Even today, she's heavily drugged. Because remember, when you go to hospital, you tell them, oh no, this person is heavily, what would you say? You'd say she would be wandering a lot in the streets, and you would not know she'd be harming herself. So they will be giving her a dosage that will somehow put her to sleep. So half of the time she's asleep, she's heavily medicated. So we woke up one day, she was so violent and she was banging on the walls, on the doors. And when we opened, because we usually lock so that her door, so that she would not go anywhere and wander and maybe get herself hurt, we realized that there was just blood on her hands and even on her tummy. She almost got into her intestines. You understand that? So that was how bad she had herself. She sliced herself, and my grandmother was like, okay, we can't handle this, we just need to commit her. She must go stay there, because we really cannot live with somebody like this who will wake up having harmed themselves the following day. And I remember that was the most painful day of my life, because I remember watching her from her window outside and asking myself that what had went wrong. This woman who loved me so much, what went wrong? What triggered this illness? That there is no traditional doctor, there is nobody that could heal her. And I decided that this time when we're taking her to the hospital, I want to go with her. So usually there is a patient transport that would come from, obviously it come from Frankfurt, and it come to Villas, Coronelia, Dwelling, and it picks up patients and all the way to Kronstadt. Kronstadt from Villas is 200 kilometers away. It was a wonderful trip in a sense that on our way to the trip, I fell asleep, or I was drowsy, and she asked that I should sleep on top of her. That was the first motherly and son experience that I had with her. She was just quiet, and she was not behaving any other way, and I slept on her lap the entire trip. And when we get there, I realized that there's just a lot of confusion here. I'm not sure what is the name of that hospital that we went to, but there is a mental hospital in Kronstadt that we went to. It's one of the biggest. Or maybe it's not a mental hospital, it has a mental hospital facility inside, some of those things. But one thing that struck me was, I realized that the mental patients were just wandering in and out of the hospital, and there was no separation between male and female patients. I'm not sure if they were checking time when they should take medicine, and they would just wander in and out of the hospital, not only on the hospital ward, but the hospital yard. Go out to the street, to jump. And I was like, this is not where I'm going to leave my mother. From that particular day, so the transport, what happens that it will take different patients. Others are going to there for eye eye operations, others is for different things. So my mother was part of those patients inside there. So the transport stays there up until everybody has been attended to, and late at night, those who are coming back, it comes back with them. Those who are being discharged, it comes back with them to their respective towns. I decided that particular day that I am not going to leave my mother in this mess, in this uncontrolled mess. I could not see who is a patient, who is a nurse, because everybody was just being free and just literally just wandering around. And I could realize that this could land my mother either dead, or we could lose her forever, and the hospital will not know what had happened. And the least thing that would say to do, they would say, we are sorry. Do you understand this? This was element. This was in 2006, like I was saying. And this was before Life Isidimeni, correct? And after taking that decision, we went back home. It was a beautiful trip, In that particular day, she was well. We could talk. We shared, skaftini, sadla. It was just beautiful. And I made a decision in my heart to say, I am going to treat her as a sane woman. I am going to give her the love that she deserves from me. I am not going to wait for her to be declared well for me to treat her well. And I went back with her home and explained to my family that I know we're having challenges with this sickness, and there will be times where I'm not here at home and my grandmother had to face the wrath, but we have to find a way in which that we could treat this individual ourselves, because the hospital, I don't think they have the capability, or I don't think they have the will, because it's not their relatives that are out there. They literally are letting these mental patients on their devices, and they can even hurt themselves. You understand? And I respect my grandmother, because at that age I was not that much old, but she really respected and respected my decision and supported me, and just told the entire family to say, let's rally behind this boy. He's tired of her mother living in mental institutions. We now as a family need to take care of this person. And that's how my mother started staying with us at home. She still has episodes, but few years later I started hearing about Life Isidimeni situation, where patients were transported and taken in a rush to places that were not properly accredited by the health profession, people who were starved to death. And even right now the case is still running. Do you understand? So my heart goes to the family of the patients who died from this, but I had to take a decision, and I had to rescue my mother from all this madness. Someone might say, but Life Isidimeni happened in Gauteng, your mother was staying in Free State. It's the same thing. It's the same damn thing. Do you understand it? So I love my mother, and she gave birth to me, and every time I go home, she recognizes me, and we get to talk. And yes, you cannot have a conversation with her without maybe, just losing it. Not losing it, I'm saying, should start saying things that really don't make sense, but half of the time she seizes me. And she has this thing that when I'm leaving, I'm coming back home, I need to kiss her in the lips 3 times. And this tradition has happened from when I was young, and I'm in my 40s right now. I still do it, and that's the only thing that she has, and she could take as a mother. And I'm her last born. I'm the last born of 3 boys, and she's just a wonderful spirit. I remember when I got my first paying job, I was a receptionist in this general practitioner doctor in Kalabucha. And my first payment, you know what I did with it? I went home, I took her, and then I took her shopping. And this shopping, remember, Villas, if you've been to Villas, you know that Villas does not have any shopping malls or anything. Anything worth shopping there that looks like a shop is Pep store. So I said, no, this is not happening. So we went to Germiston Golden Walk. It's about 60 kilometers away. So we got into a taxi, and my grandmother was not sure. I was like, no, man, this person is ill. You cannot be taking her to Johannesburg, Mwenza, you know. I said, no, this is my mother. I'm taking her there. So we went to a store there. But on our way, to Germiston, I could see her light, I could see her face just getting brightened up, seeing the buildings, the cars, the mountains, because she's usually either been locked in her room for control's sake or heavily medicated and she could not go anywhere, and she cannot even sit for quite some time. She has to lay down because the medication is too heavy. So we went to Golden Walk and I bought her clothes from top to bottom. I even bought her a bag. I bought her a nice bag, and then we went to KFC to have food. And when I arrived there, I realized that there was a KFC outside of Golden Walk. I'm not sure if it's still there in the corner. So I'm not sure that it's still there. So when I arrived there, I realized that no, damn, there are a few things that I left, So instead of me getting worried to say, pick up my mother from that thing, say, let's go back, I said, nope, I need to go back to the mall. I told her this, I need you to stay here, enjoy your food, don't move anywhere. And I went inside, I did those things, but when I came back, I got a surprise of my life. My mother was not there where I left her in KFC, but I was not worried. I asked the manager, there was a woman who was sitting, oh, that woman, no, I took her upstairs because she just decided that no, she needed to lay down here, because remember, that's the medication. Half of the time, you'll find her just laying by the sun. So she did that inside KFC and just started rolling her tobacco called BB and started smoking. And people were like, whoa! Aku bear your ladder, you don't smoke it here. But the manager was so kind, forgotten her, and she took her upstairs. So I found her sitting there, just relaxed, waiting for me, holding the clothes tight. Nobody could take those clothes away from her. And then I took her again. We went to the taxi, came back home. It was a wonderful trip again. I remember sleeping on her lap again. It was just beautiful, And we came back, and I remember when we got off the taxi, she was just walking up, and she was just, you could see the pride, she was so happy, and she was holding her bag like a lady, and she was just so beautiful, man. And that's how I've been treating my mother, and I am someone who's fully aware that she gave in everything she could so that I could be the person I am today. I am grateful to her, and I love her so much. And you might be having different challenges in your life, and you don't know what's the outlet. That was the challenge that I faced, and she gave birth to a brilliant child. I've appeared on television. I've worked for the biggest media companies in South Africa. You can count them, all of them. I'm working for one right now, and she's just been my number one supporter everywhere I go, in everything that I do, and I wish I could just continue to make her proud. And especially with my decision of stopping to smoke and drink, I realized that I was just dealing with pain that I did not know where it came from. Another important thing that I realized that this woman loved me so much is that when I was in primary, I could not understand it then. She used to come and to come check me in school, but I used to hate it, and I used to cry to say, you cannot come here, because when you come here, the kids are making a mockery of you, and they end up, making fun of me, to say, your mother is crazy, what. And only later I realized that this was just a parent coming to the school coming to check their baby. That's how much she loved me. But I could not see that and appreciate that. But later, I did understand that, and I see that she's a woman who could not have given me much, but she's given me life. She's given me the brains, these beautiful looks, and she's a strong woman, and obviously she's getting older now, but she's around, she loves me, and this episode is about that. It's about the fact that I had to take a decision and say, the government won't fix it. I will, as a family. And I've started making very positive decisions in 2023, where each and every month I go home. Like 2 days ago I told you I was home, right? And this particular year, all of it, this is the 5th month in this particular year I've been home. So yeah, I just needed to share that story so that you know where I come from, what's my background, and you've subscribed. Probably you're the first person to meet me. My name is Mohawkwebu. Welcome. This is Banter with Mohawkwebu, and I'm using this channel to just leave my legacy, leave how I thought, leave my personality in this channel, so that anybody who would want to know me and understand what was my deeper thoughts, they would get to understand, you know. So yeah, I wanted to make this wonderful video, and let me check how far we are right now. I think we are seated at, I don't know, 18-20 minutes. But yeah, man, so quite glad, happy, and that's my story.